Now that we've got the hull all done, it's time to start putting on some of the fittings. And there's a wonderful photo edge plate that I got from Admiralty Models. And it has a few of the brass fittings that are needed. Now that's going to, at some point in time, I'm going to learn how to do photo etching, and I promise to cover it. But for now, I actually bought two of these, just in case I screwed up on one, I had a backup. And it has two sets of plates. One is called the horseshoe, and this fits right here. And the second one is a dovetail plate. And the formal name is, I hope I get this right, trapezium. And that attaches to the keel and onto the stern posts. And we're going to epoxy these on. One of the great things about building models is we're actually recreating part of our history. And it's not often when you're doing a model or you're in a museum that you can actually see the real thing. Well, in the year 1800, the HMS Dromedary, or as she was originally named, the HMS Janus, sank in Trinidad, and a very good friend of mine dove on the wreck, and I was fortunate enough to get a gift earlier this year, which is the actual horseshoe that came off of that boat, along with some bronze tree nails. So we're going to take a look at that now. So here she is. This part would have been in the keelson, and this part would have been further up on the hull. I know that the book says that this piece was recessed, but I think if it was recessed, they would have had nice clean edges, so that it would fit neatly into the keel. And that's not what you're seeing here. It's very rough, and although this could have happened from the pieces of the wreck beating up on the shore, it doesn't look like that. It's quite a rough cast. And so I'm going to assume that certainly this one was not recessed into a nice, neat wooden groove. And these are some of the bronze tree nails. They're not exactly the ones that came from here, because you can see these are about 1 inch in diameter, and these holes consistently are a minimum of 2 inches. So again, going back to how this was on the ship, these would have been drilled in, gone right through to the other side and lined up with one of these on the other side, and then the top end flattened to almost make a bronze rivet. It's not often we can look at our history and see the real thing, but here it is. For the next set of brass pieces, we're going to put down the draft marks, and we've taken them off the photo etch plate, cut them out and cleaned them up, and we've established some lines on the stem. And the draft mark, according to the plan, which is the estimated draft of the boat, is 12 foot 10 inches. So that means that the 13-foot mark has to be 2 inches above the line that we've established. We're going to put a little epoxy on the brass piece and place it and let that one set. And then once that's set, we can add the top and bottom. Each of the marks is at a 12-foot spacing. So it is 6 inches between each mark, and the marks are 6 inches. So the bottom of each mark would give the reading of the depth. Now we've got all the brass pieces on the bottom of the hull. Last thing to do is the rudder. And I'm going to break this into 2 parts. I'm actually going to make the rudder twice. The first part is I'm going to just simply make a rudder that fits well. I'm not going to try any fancy shape. It'll all be made out of one piece of wood. And then when I've got that all complete, I will try or attempt to make the rudder as described in the book. But before we do that, and to get a better understanding, I'm just going to go through the images in the book, and most important, the 3D images that can be purchased from Admiralty Model. And I think once you look at particularly the 3D images, you'll get a good feel for how to go about constructing not just the rudder, but all the parts and components that make up the rudder. And you can see the fake joins come out very nice. Hopefully when I make up the final piece, it'll be as nice and as clean as this. So we just need to get some of the glue off, and you'll notice I've created the center line because we're going to be shaving this. And in the process of shaving this, of course, this line will get under pressure, but hopefully I'll be able to keep the integrity of the line. I've been working hard on the first rudder. And I'm very glad that I decided to do this. And I'm not going to go through it because I intend trying to do it the hard way rather than the easy way, but this is the easy way. And again, I've learned quite a few interesting things. Even though I've tapered it down to match the stern, I just feel that the back of it would also be feathered a bit. And so there it would fit beautifully. And the other interesting thing is the spaces that I had cut in the stern post don't line up exactly with this. I'm not sure whether the error is here, in which case there's very little I can do about it. But certainly I could make the adjustment when I go to make the main rudder piece. But it fits very nicely, and I do get my 30-degree turn in it. So now I'm going to make up the pintles, see how that goes. And then when I figure I've got everything in play and Greg has answered all the questions I have, I'll decide how I'm going to make the final piece. So there's a close-up of it. And I find my false line looks actually pretty good. We've had a lot of discussion about how to effectively cut nice thin pieces of brass. And after listening to everybody, including Jim Burns, who says he's never done it, but if he was going to do it, this is how he'd do it. Greg felt that you can do it on the table saw. They talked about having a piece of brass and laminating wood on either side and then running it through the saw. I've actually done a little bit of experimentation and find I can run it straight through the saw. I just have to clean up the edge afterwards, which is not that difficult. So this is what we've finalized on, and I'll just take you through what I've done and how I've done it. The key is keeping in mind table saw safety and keeping the fingers away from the blade, and of course keeping the piece pushed up against the fence. The challenge to cut the steel is that I need to keep a lot of pressure on it, and of course I don't want to bring my hands too close to the blade. I can't use the other system developed by Kurt. So in a sense I've reversed it. I have the steel plate up against the fence to give me a nice tight touch. It goes right down to the bottom, so there's no chance of this piece going inside. And so I'm just going to be very careful and keep my hands away. Now I flip it around because I don't want my fingers to get too close to the blade. Flip it around and start on the other side. And that's perfect. Now it probably means that this saw probably will see better days. Trying a different method now. We're using the crosscut and we're going to just slide it up and down. So what we're getting is nice clean cut pieces. The next challenge was how do we make up the pintles. And I wouldn't lie to you, I've been experimenting quite a bit. I tried taking small pieces and soldering them onto a larger piece, as is suggested in the book, and that didn't work out very well. So here's a small piece, and then you'd have a wider piece here, which you're going to sand down. But what happened is the join between these two pieces here, it was simply too fragile. So I've actually made up the first one, and what I did is I bent a perfect square which fit over the rudder, and then I added the thick piece, which is this piece, and soldered it onto the square, and then sanded that down and cleaned it up. So this is the first one I made up, is the second one I made up. Again, still needs some cleaning up. And if we put it, you can see we need to take it down. So part of the problem we have is, when do we drill that hole? Clearly we need to drill the hole now. And what I'm going to do is, once I get the hole correctly drilled and the pin in place, I will put heat on the pin, because the pin will fit very tightly in there. And I'll put some solder paste on the pin, so that I just need to heat the pin, and as soon as that melts, I'll stop it, so that I don't get the piece that I've added melting off. You're going to want to locate the hole to drill before you sand this down, because remember, the pin is going to end up on the very edge of the pintle piece. And so to mark it out, we put some permanent black on it, and then we fit it into the piece right up against there, and take a marker and scribe what has to be ground off. I'm not sure if you can see that, but that establishes where the pin goes. So now we're going to drill that hole. The first thing we need to do is to establish a starter hole. So we're going to put a little oil on it, which we've done, and have a starter hole. The size of the bronze wire we have is 0.032. So this drill bit is slightly bigger, 0.004. So again, a little oil on it, because we want to preserve this bit. Perfect. We just need to clean off the oil. It's a little lacquer thinners. And put a little flux on it. That's the solder paste. Then we pull that in on the solder paste. And we should just be able to touch the wire and see the solder paste disappear. So here we go, it's nicely stuck inside. This is supposed to be 1 7/8, and the length of it is 9 inches. So for now, I'm going to cut it off a little long. And clean it up. So it's all complete. We just need to drill the holes in the side and of course do another 4 of them. So here we have it. It's almost complete. I will cut the groove on the side here a little more so that it goes down some more, and that will end right against there. And then if I put it in the model, it's flush against the stern post, or it will be flush against the stern post. This is video 100, so that marks 100 videos I've been working on the HMS Thorn. And in the next video, video 101, we'll make up the rudder exactly the way the book says, the easy way, not the hard way, and then complete the rudder. So we'll see you next time. Keep modeling.